Raiders kind of in a situation where the locker room will turn on the owner if they don't give him the job.
I think they'll turn on the owner if Antonio Pierce don't get this job.
Ladies and gentlemen, Raiders interim head coach Antonio Pierce is getting cocky.
How many times has that happened in the last 25 years of the Raiders? Does anybody know? When is the last time that happened in Raiders history? Never. Most of those guys were, gurus. Not a defensive coach who never did it before, right?
The first indication that Raiders owner Mark Davis was looking to make Antonio Pierce the permanent head coach came right after Josh McDaniels was fired. Someone leaked a story that pitted Pierce against unpopular head coach Josh McDaniels from their intimate vent session.
Players just unloaded on Josh McDaniels, from captain to player to player. And finally, Josh McDaniels actually had Antonio Pierce get up and speak on behalf of him and the coaches. When Antonio Pierce got up there, he said, look, guys, we have to have our own culture. It's got to be about culture here. And he brought up the old Giants team that beat the Patriots, Josh McDaniels' team, in the Super Bowl in 2007 season. He said, here, we have to believe it here at the Raiders. We could beat anybody. Well, he finishes up that speech. Everybody thinks they're great, except for Josh McDaniels. Josh McDaniels then goes over to him and says, don't ever talk about the Patriots like that. And then you really saw how divided that building got. That got up to Mark Davis, and I think Mark Davis looked at it and go, okay, I'm going to choose the guy who believes that we can win every single week.
Did you hear what Jay Glazer said about the meeting? Is there anything that maybe we shouldn't take as gospel in there?
I'm irritated at first because I'm like, this is supposed to be family business. Like, this shouldn't even, I don't even know how it gets out. You know how it is. There's always going to be a couple people that leak stuff.
This story definitely made Antonio Pierce look good in front of the fans. Josh McDaniels was not only unpopular because he poisoned the Raiders offense, but he also had a negative impact on the Raiders defense.
Patrick Graham has been freed up to play the kind of style that he wants to play. We've seen this defense get better and better. The 7 games that AP has been in charge.
Another early indication that the Raiders were all in on Antonio Pierce is the fact that they released Marcus Peters and then replaced him with Jack Jones, someone who has a relationship with Antonio Pierce going back to when he coached him in high school.
I mean, at the end of the day, I've known Jack since he was 13. I knew he was Jackie Jones, not Jack. So I know him inside and out, know the family. I know everything about him. When he was at SC, I was at Poly, kept in touch and contact with him. We stayed in touch and just trying to help, trying to be a mentor. And obviously there's an opportunity there for both of us to trying to team back up again.
This is a hand-picked guy by Antonio Pierce. He's been completely balling out, getting a pick 6 against Patrick Mahomes and then roasting the guy. Keep in mind, a lot of people thought he was taunting this kid here when he pulled back the football in the stands, but Jack Jones has cleared this up on Twitter and said that there's an adult behind him trying to grab the football. Because the Raiders picked up Jones off the waivers, they're committed to him for multiple years. He technically has a 3 to 4 year contract with the Raiders. However, it is not that expensive and they did get a steal. The Raiders defense has been absolutely dominant under Antonio Pierce, but the offense has still been struggling in the similar ways that they were struggling under Josh McDaniels. Perhaps the rookie quarterback Aiden O'Connell is the problem. The guy has not been performing that well, even though Antonio Pierce is trying to sound positive about the young kid.
But he understood it was a team game, and yesterday wasn't his day, and the rest of the team carried him, and that's fine. That's okay.
In the background, we have heard that the Raiders are working out a quarterback, Anthony Brown, former Ravens quarterback, more of a mobile guy. They did a workout with him. They didn't sign him, but based on the recent performances, it's kind of clear that the Raiders will look at their options at quarterback next year. If they want a mobile guy, there may be some people like Justin Fields. The former Bears quarterback is going to be available. He's been talking as if his time is over with the Chicago Bears.
Wherever I end up, whether it's here or somebody else, somewhere else next year, just know that I've given it my all.
And also, Kyler Murray has been slightly on the outs with the Cardinals organization. Perhaps he will be available in this upcoming offseason. Antonio Pierce wants to focus on running the football, and that is definitely what he has done lately. So that makes sense that he would grab a mobile quarterback who could assist Josh Jacobs. And Josh Jacobs, when he's not dealing with his girlfriend making TikToks about him.
Dumb me. I know. Why would you even try to have a child with a man that has an obscene amount of kids? Anyways,
he is still one of the best running backs in the NFL. The Raiders have had some of their best victories back-to-back, scoring the most points in franchise history against the Los Angeles Chargers. But in that game, it was mainly a dominant defensive game forcing turnovers, and it took some weird gadget plays to win the game, like a wildcat run with Brandon freaking Bolden, and also a different quarterback, mainly Jacoby Myers, the wide receiver who played quarterback in high school. Well, he had to throw a touchdown pass of his own. Actually, the only touchdown pass that Devontae Adams received in that historic game had to be thrown by Jacoby Myers.
Yeah, Jacoby, I think, probably had a better passer rate than I did. He was 2 for 2. He threw a back shoulder.
Slightly better, but they both played great today.
The Raiders delivered an amazing Christmas present recently, defeating the Kansas City Chiefs, and it looked awesome. The defense getting multiple turnovers and making Patrick Mahomes absolutely lose his mind during this game.
It's tough. We said enough is enough. Guys came. We said we had a squeeze. It's going to take all 60 minutes. It did.
But ultimately, the defense and the run game had to win this game for the quarterback, and it was actually pretty sad. Aiden O'Connell only had 62 passing yards in this game. At one point, he had over 10 incompletions in a row. And what is so crazy is this rookie quarterback is technically the first rookie quarterback to defeat Patrick Mahomes, all while not having one completed pass after the first quarter. That is absolutely insane. Bro did not throw one completed pass after the first quarter. This guy even admitted what happened.
It was a team win. Those guys carried me, so it was awesome to be a part of.
Mark Davis is probably imagining what it would be like if Antonio Pierce had more consistent quarterback play and also had a play caller, an offensive coordinator who's not a rookie offensive coordinator. This guy just got thrown into the job because McDaniels and Mick Lombardi got fired. And that is why Antonio Pierce probably has more swagger as he walks around the Raiders building. When you look at Antonio Pierce's 3 losses so far, one against the Vikings where the offense did not score 0 points and the defense still held the Vikings to 3 points. Very impressive. And even when Antonio Pierce lost to the Dolphins and the Chiefs this year, these are top teams and these games were close, and there were several moments when the Raiders had an opportunity to win the game. That is probably why Antonio Pierce is pumping out his chest, and maybe he knows something that we don't know. Maybe he knows behind the scenes that Mark Davis has already made his decision, because now he's saying things like this after his big Christmas victory against the Kansas City Chiefs.
Beating those guys at home, how many times has that happened in the last 25 years of the Raiders? Less than a handful, right? So let's go 3. Most of those guys were, gurus, not a defensive coach who never did it before, right? Did it a certain way, right? Did it our way, right? The Raiders' way, right? He'll figure that out.
He's also low-key throwing Josh McDaniels and John Gruden under the bus because these guys are supposed to be offensive gurus and obviously cost a lot of money as a head coach. It seems like if Pierce is willing to speak this boldly, if he's able to pump his chest out this much, maybe he knows Mark Davis will make the right decision like he has suggested. Maybe he already knows he's got it in the bag, because if this guy goes out there and loses to the Colts, loses to the Broncos, especially after they benched Russell Wilson and now have former Raiders quarterback Jarrett Stidham, it's gonna look real bad for Antonio Pierce to pump his chest out like this, shade former Raiders head coaches, and then lay an egg the last 2 games. So maybe Pierce knows that if the offense continues to struggle and he does lay an egg these last 2 games, he still has the job in the bag. There's gonna be so many quarterbacks available. Hell, maybe even Russell Wilson will become a Las Vegas Raider. But there's going to be a fat QB draft class this year. The Raiders could even trade up if they wanted to, and there's also a plethora of veteran free agents available. You even had Jaden Daniels, the hotshot LSU quarterback, cryptically say that he was interested in coming to Vegas.
And you're going to tell me which one is your favorite? Washington, D.C., Boston, Atlanta, and Las Vegas.
Las Vegas.
Oh, okay. The Raiders could also finally find an offensive coordinator rather than this guy who McDaniels hired as the QB coach, Bo Hardegree. I think if Antonio Pierce wins out, he definitely deserves the job for sure. Even if he goes 1 of 1, I think the guy deserves it. Because the Raiders have some money committed to Jimmy Garoppolo next year still. Regardless of what happens, they're going to be owing Mr. Jimmy G $10 million next year, even if they release him. So maybe they'll go with a pared down offense focused on the running game with perhaps a mobile quarterback. I could definitely see that happening. We'll find out officially soon in late January if Antonio Pierce does get the job for the foreseeable future. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think this guy deserves the job? And who do you want to see at quarterback for the Raiders next year? My name is Wi-Fi Willie. Make sure you subscribe to my channel for more NFL content like this. Peace out, and I hope you have a good one.